Some people in this room have heard my story before, and a few people in this room were actually there when this happened. So I was thinking about how could I add something to it, and here's my two additions. We're talking about Apostle Paul, and he's just left Ephesus. Guess what? I just left Ephesus. We were just there not too long ago. And think about the Hollywood Bowl for a minute. The amphitheater in Ephesus is way huger than that. Hollywood Bowl is like 17,000. The amphitheater is like 25,000. It's made out of marble. It's like huge. So when this guy's trying to start a riot, and these people are, not so happy about that, there's not a lot of room for him to get out. I mean, I wish I could share the picture. It's an amazing thing. But the other thing about Paul is he writes a letter to the Corinthians. And in Corinthians 1:3-16, which is an interesting set of numbers, it says, and the Holy Spirit is in you. Well, that's a strange thing. The Holy Spirit isn't in me. He's out there somewhere. We always ask the Holy Spirit to come. We don't expect him to be here. So how did he get there? Genesis 2:7, and God breathed life into man. So what's this got to do with my story? Well, 17 years ago on August 1st of 2004, if I hold it together long enough, we were at a party. And it was in the backyard of a house, and this house had a above ground hot tub jacuzzi thingy, okay? And I was standing on one side, and this jacuzzi thing was probably back about where the door is, about that far. And in between were tables and chairs and people because it was a party. And I was standing there, and behind me, I heard the most terrifying scream I've ever heard in my life. And at that instant, I don't even know if I knew what was going on. And the only thing that I remember at that very instant is I went from here to the side of this hot tub, and I have no idea how I got there. I remember everything else about that day, but that point in time, I was simply transported. Just like in this story of Eutychus here, Paul goes down 3 flights of stairs to say he's alive. I'm like, well, yeah, it took him 0 time to get there. It took me 0 time to get there. When I got there, there was another person already in the hot tub trying to pull this young girl out. And he was struggling. And I also have no idea how he got there. But he was there. So I was on the outside, and I reached in and started pulling up. And with 2 of us, I was much stronger and fitter back then, we were able to extricate this young girl. And her hair had gotten completely entangled in the filter for the hot tub, okay? So we literally ripped the cover off the filter as we were pulling her out. It was glued to the side of her head, and all 4 screws were just popped out. And so as we pulled her out, remember it said a minute ago what Paul did. So picture this. Guy inside, and I pull her up like this. So she's like kind of up against my body. And the guy in the pool, he says, "You're better at this than I am. You do it." Well, okay. So at this point, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I lay her back down on the edge, right? There's like a foot edge around the edge of this thing. So I lay her down on it. And I look to my left and I say, "Call 911, call 911. And at that instant in time, of course, panic has ensued. There is people running around, there is noise. Linda, it was a zoo, right? It was a complete zoo. And there was a plane over there, and the police helicopter was like over there. And all these people screaming. Somebody had actually called 911, and they said, "What's your address?" And I remember somebody yelling, "What's your address?" Because when next time you go to a party, ask the host what's their address. All right. So what happens? At this point in time, because of all this commotion and what I'm standing over, and I'm thinking, this girl's dead, okay? I am shaking. I'm not shaking as bad right now, but at that point, my legs were shaking, my arms were shaking, my head was shaking. I was petrified. I was just... And all of a sudden, and I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden, from the waist up, I became completely calm. The world shut down. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. I have no idea what was happening around me. Everything became completely calm. From the waist down, my legs were still shaking, and I could feel that, but up here, nothing. And the Holy Spirit inhabited my body because he was already here. And he said, give her a puff. I'm like, now, way back in like 1969 or 70, I'd had first lifeguard training, and so I was, okay, so I decided to roll her up and try to squeeze some water out because you can't put air in if your lungs are full of water. Do that, put it down, and give her a rescue breath. Nothing happens. Holy Spirit says, give her a puff. Okay, roll her up, do another squeeze, a little water. Okay, good. Go back down, give her another rescue breath. And interestingly enough, her eyes open up. That's a good thing. And then they rolled back in her head, and my only thought, which was at that time the only thought that was mine as opposed to the Spirit's thought, was, don't leave me now. And the Spirit said, give her a puff. And so I gave her one more rescue breath, and she popped back up. And I'm like, are we staying this time? And at that instant, the Holy Spirit left. And all of a sudden, from here up, I was shaking. I could hear everything. And I picked her up in my arms and carried her a couple feet and set her down in a lounge chair that was kind of right next to the thing. And as I'm looking down, I see this pair of boots. I look up, and it's the Huntington Beach helicopter police pilot. I'm like, where'd you come from? Well, in the middle of all this, they'd landed the helicopter out in the street, which, right, I have no idea. I'm not hearing anything. And it was amazing. And that's the story. And I always tell people, even if I said logically in my head, that can't happen, I cannot unfeel what I felt. I can't unsee what I saw. I can't undo what I did. And I can't not know what I know. And I know, and it's funny, people go, well, you hear a voice in your head all the time. Yes, I do, but it's my voice, and I know what it is. It's about the only place I get the answer to the question I'm really looking for. But there's another little verse in the Bible where, what does Jesus say? The sheep know my voice. And I knew that voice. And if I had a lot of time, this is the short, this is the short version, not the short version, but the long version of this has got even more to this story. But because we're talking about people taking too long that cause people to fall asleep and die, I thought I should keep it short. But the other piece of good news is, yes, she survived, and we were at her wedding, 8 months ago? October. So there you go. Woo-hoo!